I can't even imagine.
Hey, good evening and welcome to the East Lyme Board of Education meeting for Monday, November 6, 2017. This is a regularly scheduled meeting. I would like to call the meeting to order, and for everyone who can rise, please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance as we approach Veterans Day. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Anybody from the public would like to address the board on any matter? I don't think so. No? Everybody's home watching us on television.
No, they can't. It's not on.
Okay, so we have some minutes for approval. We have the minutes from the October 23rd, 2017 meeting. That was a regularly scheduled meeting.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of October 23rd.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Barbara heard a second. Any corrections, modifications to those minutes? See, it was an extremely well-run meeting. I wasn't here. So it was short.
It was very short.
Okay, everybody all set with that? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and I'll abstain. And we also have the minutes from our special meeting that we held. It was a kind of a board retreat meeting on October 30th, 2017.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the Monday, October 30th special board meeting minutes of Board of Education.
Yeah.
Tongue
Second,
twister.
Candace seconds it. Any corrections, adjustments to those? No? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Abstain. Those passed unanimously. Special reports. Let's see, we have our high school students here. Samit and Conrad?
Yeah, hi everyone. Busy time of year for sports.
Yeah, very, yeah.
On a personal note, the boys soccer team just advanced barely to the round of 16 state tournament.
Very good.
Overtime, 2-1 victory.
Nice job.
That was a dramatic finish to that one. The girls soccer team made it to the quarterfinals of the ECC tournament. They have their first state match tomorrow, I believe.
Naugatuck.
Yes. The cross-country teams also did very well. Boys cross-country, they won their Class M title this past weekend at Wickham.
Nice.
And I believe, Sam Whitaker placed first overall.
Good job.
As a junior, so
Yeah.
kudos to him. And girls cross-country as well, they did very well. They qualified for state opens.
Nice.
Girls swimming and diving continued their dominance this past weekend with their 18th ECC win in a row.
How many? 18?
Very exciting. Good stuff there. Girls field hockey, they made it to the championship game of the ECC tournament. Unfortunately, lost to Stonington, but good run there. And volleyball, they made it to semifinals of the ECCs, and they have their first match of the state tournament tonight. I don't know how that went. All right, so moving along to other things in the high school. French Honor Society, their annual French Week just began this week. It's involving the hosting of a variety of French-themed events throughout the school, including waffle and crate making, French cuisine at lunch, French language games in the library, and a food drive to benefit the Haitian Health Foundation, as well as the annual soccer tournament, from which the proceeds will also go to benefit the HHF.
All right. Cool. So I'll talk about the Spirit Week last week. So the school had a very successful Spirit Week last week. The juniors ended up winning for the second year in a row, followed by the seniors. sophomores in third and the freshmen in fourth. The culminating, uniting pep rally that I talked about the past few meetings on Friday was also pretty successful. I would say that going in, students didn't seem too enthusiastic about the change because it was on Friday now. Usually the more competitive pep rally was on Friday, and that got pushed to Thursday. But in the end, I'd say that students either didn't mind it or even thought it was nice to have that pep rally on Friday. Nice to have the various performances and all the sports teams come out and share their experiences over the season. And for other items in the school, there was a safe driving assembly at the school today. There was a 1-hour presentation in the auditorium for juniors and seniors. And there was also a driving simulator in the gym where students could see how their driving deteriorated with just a few seconds of not looking at the road. It's very informative, and yeah. And there's also a Veterans Day Assembly this Friday, November 10th, honoring all those who have served and those who are serving. And the Veterans Day 5K, once again, is new this year. It's on Saturday, November 11th at McCook's, and proceeds are going to the New London Homeless Hospitality Center. The Boys Cross Country Team and Peers Reaching Out Club, along with National Honor Society, is helping out with that race.
Good.
Thank
Very
you.
good.
High school, yeah.
Any questions for our high school student representatives?
No?
No?
Thank you, guys.
Wow, but a busy time,
Yeah,
eh?
very busy.
Yeah, very, very busy. And we have a middle school representative, Sachi
Yeah,
Bora.
I'm an 8th grader at the Eastline Middle School, and so far our year has gone for a great start. We've already had so many field trips, Project Oceanography. We have Veterans Day this Friday where we thank all of our veterans. They come around in panels and we ask questions. They give us personal stories, which I always found very helpful. And we had high school representatives come and talk to us about different opportunities, and our
very good.
guidance counselors have always been really helpful to us, guiding us in the right path of which we need for our academic needs. And our student-led conferences are tomorrow and on Wednesday, where we talk about our goals, what we need to work on, show our work. And it's always been a great time because all of our teachers show our goals, what we need to accomplish, and our parents are always there to help us if we need anything, so we get to talk about what we need to work on.
Very good.
Good, thank
Excellent,
you.
excellent. Wow, very nice report. Very good. Any questions for Sachi?
No, but thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I was
really,
just-
been a good year so far. Yeah,
Great job.
Yeah, wow, excellent, excellent. And you don't have to stay for the whole meeting.
You can go. Unless you want to stay.
Yeah, let's watch it. Yeah. Yeah, right. Okay, that concludes the special reports. We do not have a consent agenda for the evening, so that brings us to our discussion action items. First one up is our continuation discussion on the elementary redistricting update and follow-up discussion on the work that we did last October 30th.
Monday.
Yeah, so we kind of ended that a little bit abruptly. Some individuals had to get to the debate, so it might be a recommendation to go through, those 4 areas one more time, and maybe if you remember your groups, we could attack it that way. And have some discussions around those. And I can't remember which, there was 1 or 2 that got left at the end where a lot of people missed too. So, my recommendation is to kind of go through each of these. And do we want to try and have each of your groups
That's fine.
kind of do just a quick synopsis again?
Yeah.
Might be
I
good to put it back out there.
because I had to.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that would be the best place to start.
Absolutely.
Good.
And then just one quick, I think one type on number 2 projects, I think is supposed to be projections, I believe, based on enrollment projections, Board of Ed will determine percent, I think.
Yep.
So just one quick,
Oh, I don't do
and
it.
then we can talk about the minutes too on number 3, but why don't we start with number 1, balance? I don't know who remembers.
I don't,
I
wasn't.
think
on that.
balance,
Balance.
Al, was that you and me
Yes.
for balance?
Yeah.
Okay, so we had discussed balance enrollments to ensure in available resources across the schools. Busing, centralized enrollment registrations, considering operational capacities, access to the same resources, and equal distribution of services throughout the schools.
Very simple.
Yeah, or anybody that was on it, could you give me a little more granularity as to what the word balance means as you guys were talking about it?
Well, the word balance is what, we didn't even go with the word balance. We prefer the word equity, because basically that's all we've talked about is
Oh,
equity.
okay.
It was equity, you're
It was
absolutely
equity.
right.
We didn't
Yep.
like the word balance.
Yep.
So we want that to be
So
equitable.
We want
if we
equity
could
was a
add
better
it,
word
yeah,
used
if we could take it
because
out, it'd be
it's-
great.
Yeah, because it's worded
Yep.
used in talking with the public and in board meetings. We always talk about equity between all the schools. And it's really, it basically, if you substitute the word equity in, then basically everything else that we've listed, the other 4 items listed, fit under that umbrella. That
yeah, yep,
balance.
yep.
That's what we decided. But the biggest thing would basically is the starting point would be centralized enrollment. That's going to be a key starting point because right now, it's, they just all over the place and basically it takes a while for that numbering to catch up. Whereas it's all done in a central location and basically then the district has a better handle on student placement. So,
Can I ask a question on that? I
Yeah.
don't know what process we're.
Go ahead, yeah, no, yeah, please.
I think there was only a couple of us left, but we were talking a little bit at the retreat or whatever, the centralized enrollment registration. So can you help me understand, I can understand one part, and I'm not sure if it goes further. So I understand the centralized enrollment, so people don't know, where district am I in, especially as we redistrict, and so that everyone goes to central office, then central office says, oh, you're in this area, so you will go to Flanders or Lily B or Natick Center. And that seems to make total sense. I think we're all aligned. The part where I got a little concerned, I'm not sure where we're going, is if one school is starting to get, let's say Flanders is starting to fill up, and we have someone new move to town, will central office then say, well, Flanders is getting a little full. I know you live in the Flanders district, but we're going to send you to Lily B. Even though your next door neighbors are all going to Flanders, but you're new to town, we're going to send you to. So is that the intention or not the intention of I don't know if I'm being clear, but. So I want to understand what the purpose of the centralized registration is.
Okay, well, my perception of having a more centralized registration is that we can identify if there is a increase or a decrease in one of the schools. I haven't been here for 20 years, but I've been here for 5. And it seems as though there's been a historical pattern of decrease in a certain school, which has led to such a very large inequity.
Yep.
So we don't want to ever get there again.
Right.
So I am to assume that we are going through the redistricting process. Hopefully, that's not something that we ever have to do again, right? But don't you, or at least I do, I shouldn't ask you, I feel like we should monitor and make sure that our numbers are as equal as possible. So I'm just thinking that that's one way of helping that happen. I could be wrong, but what we have been doing certainly doesn't work because look at where we're at. So it's just an opportunity to try to keep that in line.
So I'm in favor of the centralized process because I think it keeps everything cleaner and everybody does the same process, the same piece. So that piece I get. My concern would be is if we take that and see a trend going in a certain direction, then what? So if you tell me that then what is, I'm gonna have people on one street with different people going to different schools, I'm 100% opposed to that. I want, everybody in the same street to go to the same school.
Sure.
But I agree also, we need to track and everything. I think we got to the place we are, it sounds like, because we haven't done anything for a long time, and we just let things happen.
Sure.
That's why I don't want to think that we're never going to do this again, because I don't know what the trends are going to be, but we want to, and we get later in this, which we weren't all there for, where, building in some cushion of capacity in the schools will allow for some movement where we're not going to all, we're not going to be at 250 students per school every year.
No.
And if anybody expects that, it's just impossible,
Yeah,
right?
that's unrealistic.
Some are going to ebb and flow. Well, hopefully they get some ebbs and flows. Sometimes it's going to go up to 280 or so, but we also don't want it to go all the way up to like 350 at another school. dropping it down.
But see,
You know, so,
Yeah.
so,
but I want to add, but we thought by doing this as a starting point, it would make us, the administration and the board, more proactive
yeah,
as far as tracking this, as opposed to being reactive.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's really the bottom line.
Good.
I mean, we can't say that 5 more students in one school versus another is a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really to be handled at the administrative level. You know, because like I said, you know, so you take 5 students, you sprinkle in between, and it's not going to be all in the same class. You may have to sprinkle one class. So basically, numbers like that, I think basically the administrators, you have to trust them. They can say, yes, we're at a comfortable capacity. We haven't gone to the extreme. You know, we can handle 2 additional students, 3 additional. So basically, I think this basically would lay the groundwork for us to be proactive in basically monitoring this.
I couldn't agree more.
Do we want,
Again, Barbara?
Yeah, so if, I think, just to checking for understanding here, so the 2 major reasons we want to have centralized administration are, one, so that particularly after we redistrict, parents may not be clear what school they're supposed to register at.
Yes.
So if everybody registers in the same place, then we can be clear with them from our list
That's
what
right.
school they're going to.
Yes.
The other reason is to monitor the enrollments,
Yes.
but not to fix them.
That's-
Not
To
necessarily.
monitor
Yeah,
them.
Yeah.
for me, as far as where I'm looking at, I just feel like we now have a much better understanding of where our numbers are in each of the classes, in each of the schools, including preschool,
Right.
which gives us that we can identify who's coming in at a much younger age and where, right? So I just feel like if that was done, first of all, it takes off, it takes that responsibility away from the 3 elementary schools, which I don't believe that each 3 elementary schools should be even doing that, to be honest with you. I really think that it should be centralized.
Right.
At our offices. And if it's an online process or what have you, we're, all of our dialogue is bringing everybody in line to doing the same things, right? Our curriculum, everything, our 5-year plan, it just makes more sense.
I think right, I just think everybody's concerned with this, and this is why we're trying to get you to clarify, is that if you look at our other goals, we want stability for a while.
Yeah.
So we don't, right, so we're gonna monitor it so that if we have to make changes down the road, we can then have some advance notice and say to parents, you know, we may have to change the line because it's going this way. But no way are we ever gonna say to a parent, we would rather that you go to this school than that school.
That's not my intent.
Okay.
Got it.
That's what
That's
we're
good. I
trying
think-
to get clear.
Yeah. Bill, do you have something to add?
Yeah, that's, just to take it one step further, so ideally, we said we don't want to have to do this again, but the reality is we have to do this, right? So the goal, the top word you're using is equity. In order to maintain equity, as things ebb and flow, we're going to need to move lines.
Yes.
The question becomes, are we going to quantify what represents the time to move the line? In other words, you know, if the percentage of enrollment at any one of the 3 schools exceeds whatever number of the total enrollment, then, you know, it's time for us to consider moving a boundary or whatever.
Right.
And I think that should not be something that we don't put out there right now, so that parents realize that, you know, and then for future boards or whatever, it's not this, oh, here's our roadmap to the future, so it doesn't
Right.
get to where we are now. Instead of skirting around the issue, let's quantify that and say, you know, our intent is equity. We understand there's going to be a percentage of ebb and flow, but if all of a sudden, you know, the flow is constantly going north or south or whatever, then we've got our guidelines that say we've exceeded our,
Disparity.
you know, point, and then we've got to make some adjustments.
Right, so maybe come up with a percentage.
So that parents know right from the
disparity.
get-go, wow, you know, and maybe you could even, at that centralized location,
Second
say,
number two.
you know, there's been a lot of flow to the southern part of town with all the developments that go in.
Sure.
You know, considering next year, just be aware that we may need to move some lines. That's, it's all,
So let me, yeah, very well said. So let me just try this out on everybody. Okay, so remember, what's going to happen is Malone McBroom, Mike Zuba, is going to come to us after he gets some of this criteria, these criteria. He's going to come and he's going to say, I've got 3 options for you for how to redistrict the district. And he's going to show us 3 options, and then he will rate them according to this criteria, okay? So when I see the first criteria, balance, what I say, if he comes in and says, equity, okay. If he comes in and says, option number 1 has 276 students in each school. That equals up to almost 830 kids. That's how many kids you got. Option 1 creates 3 schools that have the same number of children. Is that what balance or equity means to everybody?
Not
No.
necessarily.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
it goes back to the thing that Bill said. He says that you don't want to basically cut a street right in the middle and say, I'm sorry, Eric said, half your neighborhood's going to this one, half's going to this one.
You don't want to cut
We
neighborhoods
don't want to
in
do
half,
that.
just to
Okay.
make things be
I mean, so it's like
balanced.
equity basically is also
Or equity.
a broader term.
No, I liked what he said
Boundary is
as
too
far
final.
as if there was a trend, like, for
Yes.
instance, if we had known that the trend was going to be so large in the Flanders district,
Yep.
okay, for the past, year and a half?
Mhm.
It has gone up tremendously, right? If we had known that, you know, if you know ahead of time, you can change the line.
And I think that's part of the reason why we hired M&M in the first place,
Yes.
right? Is to really do that, like, very reliable and in-depth
Yes.
data analysis to give us that information.
Okay. So let me just, again, I think this is what, I'm trying to really get down to the crux of this. Okay, so from considering operational capacity or distribution of services, let's just say for 276 kids, in an school, roughly, okay? How many media, specialty? Music. How many music teachers? 1. Okay. So if M&M comes in with a proposal and says, option number 1 has basically, the children are divided up so that you will have 1 music teacher per each school. Each child will have roughly the equal access to 1 music teacher. Is that what we're talking about in terms of balance?
Ideally, yes.
Ideally, okay.
But basically, I said, we won't know until they actually start putting the dots in the map.
Yeah.
And it may look a little bit, one may have 5 more than the other,
Yeah, but, I mean,
You can't-
within the sensitivity, is that what we're
But I
talking?
think what you're saying is,
I'm trying to
that,
get,
yeah, that if that plan then goes against all of our other criteria, like if we have to give up
Right.
all of our other criteria
Yep.
in order to do that, we probably wouldn't want to do it.
Do it, yeah.
Right. So yes, that's one of our criteria, but then we have to look.
It's not
and
the
that's
only
why he
criteria.
has the 3 different plans, because he might have one plan where the numbers aren't quite as equal, but we didn't have to break up neighborhoods
Yes.
in order to do it.
got it, okay.
Right?
Okay.
That's what,
Yep.
how I envision
Okay,
this.
good,
Yeah,
good,
right?
exactly.
okay.
Like you wouldn't
okay.
want to
this is gonna
take all
drive
of
this
King
for
Arthur
us,
and
too.
divide it into 2 different neighborhoods just to make the schools equal.
Right.
Right. Because then that wouldn't be equal to that neighborhood.
Well, not only that, if you look at number 4, one
Yeah,
of
that's what-
our,
Yeah.
another is
Impacts,
to
right,
keep
impact.
neighborhoods together.
So if
Right.
it meant dividing King Arthur into 2 schools, it would go against
Number
something
four
else that we have.
Exactly.
Right,
So
or
that
it
would
might
make it,
cost us a lot more to bus, the
Right.
rides might be longer, so you have to balance all of the criteria and come up with the best
right.
option.
What would be an unacceptable balance?
Well, I think that's what Bill's talking about in terms of how large of a disparity are we able to live with between the three schools?
Clearly where we are is.
It's a huge
That's
disparity,
very
yeah.
big.
That's big.
So
Right.
that's the part that I think it would be nice to try to quantify. What is a realistic, variance that we can have between buildings?
So, just to add a complexity to that, though, is, because the situation we're in is Flanders area is still growing, and Niantic is probably not. It's probably most static. And so when we think about what we're going.
The numbers have gone up, though. I mean,
Little bit, yeah.
they have a
More,
little
much,
bit.
much more static than.
Than the other two.
Than Flanders. And Lily B
Yeah.
is a hard one, because, but, so as we're looking about kind of equity, we're also looking at future equity, right? In other words,
Right.
if we balance them all today perfectly, but 2 years down the road, we already know what's going to happen, and they're going to be imbalanced.
That's what Lee was
when-
saying.
yeah,
That's
so
where
when-
the M&M
So when
data
we
comes
start
in.
talking about what's our willingness to have variability today or variability in 3 years? So like, I want to make sure that in the 3 years that we're minimize the variability, and I'll allow some variability early to have lower variability later, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Because I'm going to give capacity early.
That's what we're paying for.
Yeah.
Right, and we also know that right now, the Flanders line is really big, and that there's a part of the Flanders line that could just as easily go to Lily B.
Or Niantic.
Or Niantic to relieve the population and the growth at Flanders, because there's that old Lyme end that's just as close to Lily B and Niantic as they are to Flanders.
Yep.
Good. Candace?
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, Candace had her hand up first.
Candace and then Lee.
Okay, so we can't guarantee anything, right? We are bringing in a specialist to guide us the best way. They go on so many different components when they make their recommendation. One of those components is what is sold in the town hall, what the plans are for that property. We know Flanders is going up. We know the Orchards is it's growing. There is another development, there's actually quite a few developments in that area. Okay. Roxbury just sold. That is a huge property. There is nothing on the books yet, but there's gonna be. And what district do they go to? That's gonna be either dependent because of where it is. Could be Niantic Center, or it could be Lily B. So there's no guarantee. I wish that I could give a guarantee. I wish that somebody could tell me, this is exactly what you're gonna have, Mrs. Carlson, and it is not gonna change, because I like that. It's not gonna happen. So when I say to put in, or to take steps that are going to help us see what's coming ahead, to be proactive. That way, we're not in a position like we're in now, but we can navigate it better. And you navigate better when you have the information. So this is just one of the different components, But I liked what Bill had said as far as being transparent, right, with our families, that if we were to go with a centralized registration, we have more control over it. We fully understand and could identify if trends are coming, and then we could make the changes ahead of time. And yes, that might happen. It might, with the growth of our town. Everybody else seems to be leaving Connecticut, but Niantic is growing just beautifully. Downtown, in the middle, and Flanders Way. So I just want to say.
Okay. Lee?
Yeah, and thinking what Bill was saying about kind of establishing the percentage of variance that we're like okay with, I think that's going to be really important moving forward. My question is, isn't that something that M&M should be able to advise us on, given that, like, I think that we need to do that, but I actually think that that's something that we could ask them to give us guidance on before we approach that conversation as a board.
Well, before we knock our heads together, trying to
right.
figure
Yeah.
out what that variance is.
Precisely.
We might want to start Flanders off at 250 students,
The
or
least-
230
yeah,
students
because we
versus
know
the other
they're
two
gonna grow.
schools.
Right.
Because of the known that, you know,
Yeah.
it's going to grow the most over the next
I'd like
3
to
years.
see their numbers before we try to throw some of our own out there in terms
Right.
of what percentage we'd be okay with.
That's an important piece of what you're reflecting.
Very much so, yeah.
I think I think what I'm hearing, though, is, which is good, and this is what I want to hear, is that each of the 4 criteria, we haven't talked about transportation, but we certainly have talked about equity, future growth, sustainability, and impact to families and students. And the conversation has gone where they're all important to consider in making a decision as to which redistricting option we will go with and begin this whole new state in. And I think that's good. I think that's really good. That's what I wanted to hear, because I'm paging back in my memory cells to when we many moons ago, when we had conversations about what our goal was. And we were very strong about the equity to the point of very set and they're going to be exactly equal in size. And so what I'm hearing is that, well, there's other factors to take into consideration. And I think that's
I think that
very
a
good.
roundabout equality is,
Oh, yeah, roundabout
they
equality.
don't have to be
So we don't
each
have,
of
so
them
we have,
280 students. And they're
right.
going to be 260, 240, 230. I mean, as long as they're in that general
In that-
vicinity
okay,
of each
good.
other and they're
That's
getting
good.
the same
Excellent.
resources and the
Right.
same staffing and the same quality, quantity of services,
Access.
Yep.
then that's equal.
Good, okay, good,
Right.
excellent. That's
Not quality, 'cause
perfect.
it's all the
I think we're
same
all moving.
quality,
Nice,
it's
nice.
quantity.
Can I just one wording thing to
Yeah.
ask you, just for clarity? Just because we clearly define the difference between registration and enrollment, because there is a difference between the two. So if you wouldn't mind, under the first bullet, saying centralized registration and enrollment?
Yes.
Yep.
Because you register a child at Eastline Public Schools and you enroll them to a building. So, and there actually is 2 different processes for that, and there's 2 different documents
It
requirements
should
for
be
that.
one place.
Okay.
You're welcome.
And not to forget, too, that centralized registration and enrollment, there's a bigger picture of why we're doing that, too.
Yes.
Because you've got
Yes.
parents that come into town and have to go to
Yes.
3 separate schools right now.
That's right.
to register. That's
Because they don't
crazy.
know where they're
Yeah,
going.
exactly, yeah. So just a,
Yeah, we centralized registration this year.
All right, so
Yeah.
you're going to change that in there, thank
Good,
you for that.
Yep.
and you're going to change, the word balance gets replaced with equity.
Equity,
yeah.
and then registration and
So-
enrollment.
Thank you.
Good, beautiful. Al just raised his
Oh,
hand,
yeah,
then
sure.
Eric.
I didn't see that.
Al, go ahead.
Well, and the way I'm understanding now is when M&M comes back to us with options, we have to basically take each option and hold it up to these 4 items.
there you go.
Every single one of them.
That's
To say,
right.
does that meet this one? I mean, those are the questions we have to be asking. You know, does it, basically, why is that, what's the delta here? What's the difference? We have to take all these 4 criteria we came up with, and every option has to be held to the same magnifying glass. That's basically what would be true. You may not get everything in one of them, but can you get most of them?
Right.
Do we get the ones we feel strongest about that count the most as? So that's the question we're going to be asking.
Yep, right. Eric?
So I just, I get worried, we're using words equity, same, and just want to make sure people, how people define that. And, because some people will count, right? And equity doesn't mean equal.
Right.
Equity means similar, around the same, I don't know what, it's going to be.
Fair.
Like fair, I mean,
Fair.
we're trying comparable,
Comparable.
yes,
Yeah.
comparable, that's a good word.
Comparable,
So I
not
just want to
bad.
make sure, because we'll get people who will come to us and say, wait a sec, we have one music teacher, they have 1.2, I'm making up whatever, they have 1.2 music teachers based on their, and that's not fair, we should have exactly the same. It's like, no,
Right,
it won't
that's-
work out
Right.
exactly that way. We're going to do the best we can to
Yeah.
get as close as we can and comparable.
Mm-hmm. So it could be, the major heading could be equity, but then it could be comparable enrollments.
And it could also be equitable distribution of services, not equal
Okay.
distribution of
I'm okay
services.
with that.
Yeah?
It's like Eric said.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Equal means same and equitable
Got it.
doesn't.
Right.
Good, okay,
Yeah.
great.
Bill?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just a small thing. For one, the area of transportation, I almost think is going to be driven by all these other things anyways. It's kind of a non-factor. The fact that these are numbered and the fact that impact to families is at the bottom kind of worries me a little, just in terms of presenting to the
Because you want
public,
to say like
right?
A, B, C, D?
Great point.
Yeah.
Transportation.
If they are going to be numbered, I certainly would put transportation
Yeah,
last.
let's
But I would
alphabet-
argue that
Let's bullet and alphabetize them.
Yeah, I think that is,
And actually, we can say not in prioritized order, actually be
Well, yeah,
clear at
'cause-
the top, just say.
Because that's
Yeah,
what,
absolutely.
M&M's going to ask us, what's your priority? They're going to ask us that question.
Sure.
They are going to ask,
Well,
because
but
that's
it's not,
really.
it won't be prioritized because, like we just said.
They're all
if balance-
important.
They're
If
all.
balance was one, that would say, we're going to get balance and forego, at the.
We don't want
at
to
the
do that.
cost of
the
dividing a
others.
neighborhood or
Yes,
whatever.
which we're not, we
Yeah.
aren't willing to
So
do.
maybe, so say things, we're selling whole to all. It's,
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
holistic, yeah.
Okay.
I think we're gonna look at our three options and
But it's
pick
these,
the one that
there's
best.
others that we could have prioritized. These are the four we're prioritizing. There's others that we have not prioritized.
That's right.
Kind of
Right.
deprioritized.
Right,
Those others.
good.
Okay. I like that.
You want to talk about this the next one?
I don't know who that was.
That was Eric and myself and Jeff.
Somewhat covered it. So,
Yeah.
future growth and sustainability. So we talked, the goal is to have additional capacity based on enrollment projections. So that, we talked about looking at each of the elementary schools is not to, we may not have balance. We might leave some capacity because we see where the future growth that M&M is going to come forward with that information. So we just want to make sure that as we see where the growth is, that we're planning not for this year, but for future years as well. But then we also, the next two are really just as M&M provide that information, that the Board of Ed wants also a chance, that we can take that information and put a lens on top of that. So we can look and say, they might recommend a certain capacity, but we might look at that and, Candace, as you did, whatever, a couple of years ago prior to me joining, but the other firm that came in and said, here's what your enrollment projections are, and you said, that's not right, because I know A, B, and C. And so those things where we might know a little bit more, just being in the town and seeing what's going on, we want to allow the Board of Ed to adjust or make changes based on what we see as the growth as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Good. Any other comments on that one? I mean, the first one we really talked about.
I don't know, I know we had conversation about whether or not to do that, keep the example in there of Flanders having capacity.
I don't know what
I
that
don't
means.
Oh, yeah.
You don't
Take
need
that
that.
out.
Talks
Yeah,
about
that was
maybe
good.
getting rid of
Yeah.
it.
Yep. Okay. Cool.
Tim,
Yep.
with the last bullet there, what does that mean? BOE may adjust boundary lines based on enrollment projections. You mean now or later?
When we get
When we get there.
Later.
We
That
get the
ties into
information
kind of
back
what Bill
that we
was
can-
saying.
Like if we don't like M&M's line, we can make it ourselves.
Yeah, so it may be needed, that needs maybe a little bit more, it could be potential for future adjustments in boundary lines or something. It basically is if imbalances occur as we may be projecting and it's really out of whack, there could be a boundary line which is easily adjusted, which makes the correction. I don't know how easy that's going to be able to figure that.
Well, maybe if we tie that into the DV, what we decide is the percentage of,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's all it was, is as you look at the plan, you'd say, well, if we were wrong, and and twice the amount of growth occurred in the district that was for Flanders, is there an obvious thing, that an adjustment without shifting everything around? I don't know. That was the idea behind that.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we're not saying, and I don't want to give anybody the idea that we're going to willy-nilly change lines. Like this year, well, we didn't like this, so we're going to change this line, and next year we don't like this, so we're going to change that line. I think people need to be assured that there's a certain amount of, I mean, we're under sustainability. Changing lines frequently is not sustainability.
Right. Yep.
Right? We
Yep.
don't want parents to think
Right.
we can change a line, and then one year they're going to go to this school, and the next year they're going to go to that school.
Yep.
I just think we have to be real careful about statements like adjusting boundary lines
Yeah.
without being pretty specific about what we're talking about, when and under what conditions.
Yep.
I can agree with that. I just, I think that it's important to be there, and it ties actually back into what Bill was talking about as far as being transparent, that if that becomes a challenge, that this is something we may do.
Right. But
Right.
there
That
needs-
it should be there.
Clear.
That it's clear, that there's transparency for it, because we don't want to go back. That's all. That's what I take from that. I don't take it as I read this as, parents beware that the board will change that boundary
Right.
line if two children come in. I don't take it that way.
No, I'm not saying I do,
But I
I'm
do
just
think
saying,
verbiage
let's be
should be there.
specific about, if we're gonna have an if-when statement, then we need to be clear about what the if is and what the when is. And I don't think we're being very clear about what the when is. When, under what conditions are we gonna change those boundary lines? That's transparency, right? There's a difference between being transparent and being vague and then causing people to worry, which is what I don't want to happen.
Agreed.
Because I think then people are gonna be, we want this to go through, we want the public to feel secure that we got this under control. So if we, yes, I agree, Candace, that we want this to have sustainability, but then we should define what sustainability is. And we're not doing that if all we're saying is we're gonna change the line. Well, when are we gonna change the line? Under what conditions? I think it's important to say that.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. Any other comments on that one? Transportation?
Bill, do you want to do it, or do you want me to do it?
Again, I don't think we need to, I don't care, you want to do it? Go ahead. I'll do it, fine.
Do it, Bill.
So, my opinion, transportation is already covered, because the goal is to keep the neighborhoods together. We're going to try to make it such that the lines aren't drawn where some kid gets a crazy amount of time on the bus. We want to try to set some reasonable guideline for how much time they need to be on the bus. And we're going to try to optimize these bus routes, but that's a little vague, I guess, the way it's written. But I think if we keep neighborhoods close to the closest building, then we're going to be saving in transportation costs anyway.
Automatic.
Oh, agreed.
So I don't think it's something that is, in my opinion, investing too much energy into. It's going to, by default, solve itself.
Okay.
Good. Any
So
comments?
do we need
we get rid of
transportation
it?
on this list then?
I think also the transportation piece can be folded into the impact to families and students.
No, that's not a bad idea.
Right.
Right, because we, like, when Barbara and I were going over impact to family and students, a lot of what we were thinking
Yeah,
about
I
is
was just gonna say, we
students
were
don't
talking
have.
to Lee and Barbara.
Yeah,
at
we
the
were
same
like
time
leading
we were
across the
doing
table.
ours.
Because, we don't want kids to be on buses for too long. I think there's a lot of things that.
I agree. I have no problem rolling that
Folding it
into
in.
that.
I don't have a problem
feel
folding
like
it in.
it's kinda-
Yeah, because they are covered, because I have
Yeah.
to say, when Bill and I were talking about it, we were also talking to Lee and Barbara at the same time.
Because
I think that makes perfect sense.
I think what we addressed in number 4 is ways to minimize student travel time. And frankly, I'm not so sure that I see reducing transportation costs as a priority for this redistricting. I mean, I think there's a lot more.
It'll be a byproduct.
I think
Yes.
that's the point. I think
Yeah.
it would be a,
Yeah.
Right, but I don't see it as a goal.
yeah, yeah.
Is what I'm saying. So I think we should just get rid of that and fold it into.
Yeah, get rid of that
Statement.
cost part out and just put the,
Yeah.
And I mean, one of our, sub-bullets, limit student travel time to conform to board policy, because Barbara and I weren't entirely sure what the exact minutes were. I think you guys were in the
It's
same.
an hour.
Hour, I think it is.
60.
I would say that's even like very similar to the spirit of what you guys were doing for the first bullet point anyways.
So we really don't, I mean, so for, the last criteria basically captures in the verbiage there, transportation.
Right.
Can I say that I do think that the bottom bullet on transportation is a very important bullet, because sometimes those computer-generated routes are not as efficient as someone going out and driving it and taking a look at it.
Maybe say are continually reviewed,
Because I don't
Yeah.
think them like zigzagging through a neighborhood 15 times is an efficient use of bus driving.
We have to pull all the way down a road just to do a three-point
I
turn to
think
get
that's
back
part
out.
of what they do when they create the routes, is they do drive the routes. I mean, that's
I don't think they
what, my
do.
experience is the bus companies, when they create the routes.
I think they
do
only
do
drive the route if they've heard that someone has an issue with the route.
The buses go out before the year starts and they run the routes.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The bus driver runs the
Well,
route.
so maybe
before
what
school
we need
starts.
to ask
They don't run the
M&M
route once they've decided the route.
Do they have those discussions about the routes with the bus company as when they draw the lines?
They don't.
Well, we can ask them.
Well, I've
Maybe we
spoken
could
to
ask
them.
them
They
too.
don't.
Yep.
Do that.
I mean, I've talked to bus drivers and they said that they only run the route that like first couple days before school just to check on timing and hazards. And then after that, it's the route.
But I would think if you were redrawing the lines and you have new routes, we'd want to drive those routes before we approve the plan, is what I'm kind of saying.
No, I know, but I know that they only, because we've had issue in the past with bus routes, that the only time someone drives the route is when there's an issue with the route.
Right, but I'm saying as part of the redistricting, we could request.
Well, right, we can,
but
but
they-
yeah.
Yeah, I think
As-
that's what Jamie said.
But what I'm saying
she
is
can.
as of now, they don't.
Right.
And I
Right.
think that we
Right.
should have that part of it, because I don't think that those because what they do is they type in all the students' addresses and hit a button and it makes a
Yeah,
bus route.
populates the-
Right.
And that's not always the most efficient way to do something.
Right.
Because sometimes a computer requires a human to think for it, not a computer to think for the human.
No reason why we can't run routes.
No,
Yeah.
I think we should, but I don't think we need, I don't know if we need it as a bullet under our
No, but I'm just
criteria.
saying that that bullet is important to remember.
I think you just put that on, I like that.
We should just add it to what we want them to do as they create the routes. We want them to drive the routes.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
could be another piece that we could talk to them about.
You're good for a couple, Jeff, right? I'll do a couple.
Sure.
I mean, I know Kevin's,
Take a long way to work.
Or-
Let's
Yeah.
do it.
you've driven routes with Kevin before, haven't you?
Good.
Okay.
Gotta do it in the bus,
Kevin and
though.
Al would drive routes.
That's right.
Yeah.
Got to drive the bus to get the full effect.
It's the
And it was
turnaround.
not, and some of them were like,
Exactly.
And I
what are
think,
they doing?
yeah, that's good.
I ask myself that every day
Okay.
when I'm behind the bus.
So we'll rework
I think-
this.
Are we in good shape on this then? We're in pretty good
I think
shape?
so, yeah.
Yeah, I like it, I like it. A+, guys.
Congratulations,
Yeah,
your criteria.
very nice,
That's awesome.
very nice.
3, too. That's good. That was a great idea.
So we'll
Yeah, we'll rework this.
we'll add all the corrections, we'll send it out to everybody. If somebody flips out and says if we missed something or got something wrong, just holler back to Jeff on it.
Yeah.
And then this criteria will go to M&M, Malone and
Are
McBroom.
we going to meet with them to talk about it or not? Because he kind of said he wanted us.
Yeah, we need to look at the next, when's the
Yeah.
next meeting?
Yeah.
I'll follow up with him to, once we send this to him too, I can use it as a follow-up to discuss. I also want to be thinking about when's the next step in communicating with parents on redistricting and where we are in the process. Haven't sent something out in a while, so this might be something to tie in with, here's our focus criteria to share with, with parents in the community. Let them know we're still working on this. It's been a little while.
That's a good idea.
I had made a note.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Okay, excellent. Everybody's all set to move on?
Yep.
Okay, the next item is for discussion is an update on, hey, what we got, and action, we got Mark's first, yeah, okay, and action.
Discussion only.
Yeah, I see that. Huh?
What's the action?
I was gonna say, there is no action, it's just discussion.
Yeah.
Discussion, only. We can't act on it.
Yeah, and if we want to change it, we're unanimous about it. Do you want it run tonight?
We don't necessarily.
We don't
need
have
one.
to.
No, we don't need one.
No,
Why don't
okay.
we talk about it?
Yeah, why don't we just talk about it then?
Taking an action
We're
on
still
something we
digging
didn't
up some
promote as an
information as
action.
well,
item.
so.
Right.
Yes, I prefer not to have
Okay.
action
I was
on
gonna
it.
say,
Yeah.
I'm not
Okay.
comfortable turning it into
No.
an action item, having
Yeah,
it not
that's fine.
publicized as an action item.
Yeah,
That's fine.
okay.
You haven't got the final word yet, really, so we just got speculation.
Yeah, I think, well, let's so anyway, so the item is for discussion on budget update and implication on the 2017-18. And it has to do with what's happened at the state level with the educational cost sharing money.
That's right, for this.
Jeff, do you wanna-
Our current fiscal year budget. So, yeah, so what you have is a breakdown, basically, of where we stand between the municipality and the town side, and really the ECS, which is the only one, on our side. And also, I think key is to project out to the fiscal year 2019, the following year. And for ECS dollars, you can see there's only a $14,000 decrease for the following year, so, which is a good thing, which really kind of stabilizes our ECS for this year and for next year. So it helps in our planning with budgetary purposes. I will note, we did lose the $345,923 in ECS funding, for the town of East Lyme. The town had also lost that big payment in lieu of taxes, the state property component, but the town got a stabilization grant, which was new, for the $615,000. I mean, all said and done, it's the 410,830, but then we remember the Board of Finance last year put in a buffer in the mill rate of the tax rate, so it equated out to that $307,715, leaving us with a budget deficit across, between them and us, town and us, of $103,000. They looked at it as a split of Board of Ed side 66%, town side 34%, and you can see the numbers where we're looking at a $68,056 in what we would have to find. Much better than millions or hundreds of thousands, which is good news, but we still have to come up with, with $68,056 for this year. So there's where it kind of leaves us. We started a breakdown, and I agree, Jamie, I'm glad we're not having decision action on this because it's still early. We're still trying to gather information, but we kind of did a rough draft breakdown of some of the areas that we're looking at. And Mariana has done some good work on this, and I already, identified some tuition reimbursement dollars that we know that we're not going to have to pay out to teachers, to our staff, because that window closed. I think it was as of October.
Well, so everything has to be in by June 30th. They have to submit all their paperwork by June 30th, and it gets paid by October, by
That's
the
right.
end of October.
End of
So
October.
Everything's already paid out.
Everyone
on
that
that.
submitted all the paperwork has been paid.
So we know we've got extra dollars sitting
Perfect.
in that tuition of the $15,000. The audit expense, you found that?
The audit, the audit expense, based on, it was budgeted at 20, based on what we paid last year. We only paid 10. I cannot imagine our portion of that audit will be more than 10 again this year, so I think we're okay to use that 10,000. And then the other two items are just estimates based on prior year historical data. That could change, but right now, that's where, again, we could either freeze funds if we needed to, or where I think we'll have additional funds left over.
So that's kind of the breakdown. Again, it's we don't have to have this money right now or tomorrow. we have some time, but, and I think we should give it some time too, because we might see some other areas. so.
Jamie.
Yeah, Jamie.
Have we opened up, back up, since we have a better idea of what's coming? Have we unfrozen that account for the supplies? Have we
Yeah.
unfrozen that for all
Yeah,
schools?
we've,
Never,
yep.
it was,
No, I mean, I know, but we put like a kind of hold on it so they.
Yeah, we clamped around it, but we
Yeah.
let it dribble out.
We've let
Yeah,
them
we've-
get back into that
Yep.
again? Okay.
Yeah, we've opened that back up.
Because I know
So,
it was tight.
Yeah, and that's a key focus too for moving forward. We're not freezing funds, which we've typically
No, I know, I
done
didn't mean
here,
freeze, but I know we had put like a,
Yeah,
please don't unless you have to kind of deal out there.
Yep. So
And I
we've
don't like
opened that
doing
back
that
up.
if we don't have to.
Has,
do that.
has the town received the money?
has the town received the money?
Did they get it? Yeah, they're supposed to be
No.
released pretty
Yeah.
quick.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they've
I
received
don't know
it.
if they have or
Yeah.
not.
Okay.
but-
I know New London got theirs.
Yeah.
They got theirs?
New London did. The town, I don't know about this board, but I know the town of New London got their money.
Oh, they did? Okay. Yeah, that's good. Okay.
So I would have thought we probably would have gotten.
I imagine we did then. I mean, we don't really get notified when we
Yeah,
get
no, you don't, yeah.
funds or
Yeah.
anything like that,
Yeah,
so.
good.
Just
Okay.
when we don't.
There are some other requirements that came forth through this
Yeah.
budget, though, some, if you want to call them kind of mandates. I sent that to you via email, so you had a chance to kind of look at some of those. I don't think anything that's greatly, impacting us. There's an increase in teacher retirement contribution by teachers, of 1%. A lot of focus on the small towns and allowing, a regional component or a superintendent from a large town to oversee a smaller town. So that component had.
Is that going to affect us with Salem, do you think?
I don't know. What Salem, is thinking.
I know they're already down to half-time, aren't they, on their
Yes.
superintendent?
Yes.
Their point,
Oh, yeah, he's .4, that's right, he's .4, .45.
point four. Yeah, he only works 2 days a week.
Yeah, yep.
Right, but I didn't know if that would affect us, if we'd have to absorb Salem, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either. That's something that probably will come up in discussions, I bet, in the future. as to
That's
what
a
that might look like.
February 2018 discussion item.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of this, though, that we're missing. So like, right now, we're good, like, today.
Today.
Today, we're good.
But you understand, the legislature goes back into session February 2018, and from there, you have your FY 2019 right
Right.
there. But that doesn't mean anything.
It could change. You're right.
It could-
Right.
And the problem is there was an article 2 days ago, 3 days ago, that showed a projected out budget's a deficit post this compromise that's really bad. So, because if you look at like the income tax and what we brought in there and things like that, the numbers, I mean, they're going to have to go into special session once again. They go back into regular session in February, but that February to, because it's a short session, so it's February to May, that's the most terrifying session because it's short. So, just be on the lookout.
So more,
Yeah,
more
optimism.
more changes
John,
could be
does-
forthcoming.
Are they talking at all too about the tax proposal from the feds that are talking about
Yeah.
eliminating income tax and state tax
Well, the state deduction
deductions?
side, yeah.
Because
so-
I would think that would tie into us too, because states like Connecticut, if, with the high income tax, if they lose that deduction, that's gonna impact us too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's about 8 states that are just like us, that with this tax program,
Yep.
the whole world changes, so.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's really important to keep figuring out, but yeah, like today we're good, but FY 2019, who knows? And then obviously, you're so close in the Senate, you're tied in the Senate, and you're
Right.
so close in the House, you have a gubernatorial open seat election, so the political dynamics of this is going to be, so that's why it's really important to, and I've talked to Mark about this and four finance folks about this, is you have to figure out, how to make it work if all of a sudden that seismic shift happens in terms of like ECS dollars and what happens there, because they're starting this municipal stabilization grant, which is supposed to help with pilot and things like that. But at the end of the day, what happens in 2019, 2020, 2021.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a stay tuned, but at least we, as of right now, we know where we stand.
Right now, we have money to pay our
Right now,
staff
yeah,
and
we-
teachers and
Yes.
buy
Yeah,
our
we're back.
supplies and
Back to a,
pay our electric bill.
a stability
The
level,
lights on.
until the next hurdle comes along, which we have to jump over.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Okay,
so we'll keep you posted.
yep. Okay, next item is proposed East Lyme Public School Capital Improvement Plan Ad Hoc Committee. Jeff, you want to?
Yeah,
A little
well,
summary on-
we had that non-lapsing kind of committee that was going on, where we were working with some members of the Board of Finance. It's the next step now. We want to dissolve that, as we agreed at the last meeting, and turn it into looking at the district management plan, 10-year plan, and the creation of a document that's going to house all of our maintenance buildings and improvement, capital improvement plan items, as well as a town side of the same type of document. So we want to turn it into further work, in those areas. I think to start, though, we had talked previously, a couple months back, about having a ad hoc CIP committee of the board. So wanted to throw it out to see if anybody's interested in joining me on that venture, so we can at least start our own conversations and then maybe some combined town discussions as well.
I'm definitely interested.
Great.
I'll stay on the committee too.
Okay. All right. Perfect.
How many people do you think? Two?
I would think 2, 3
Two?
max. Yeah,
Two,
2 would
three
be
max, yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Maybe we just stick. You guys you've been part of it, so
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, but we want to keep this as an ad hoc, we want to keep this as a separate thing so the FFO
Right.
doesn't get bogged down.
Yeah,
with that.
exactly.
So-
That's the whole, yeah.
Yeah.
And it gives us a real focus on CIP items, which we've lacked in the past.
And I think it, maybe just, as we dissolve this non-lapsing, whatever account, one of the things that became clear is there's actually 2 deliverables. The Board of Finance needs something of the big picture, the big capital items that are coming down the pike, but they don't want too big of a list. They don't want every little item. But I think we might want something at one level below that, which has a little more detail that we're more comfortable to go with. So there's kind of a general ledger and a subsidiary ledger for you accounting fans. So that's what I think we need to get to with this CIP.
Good.
I think we need to have, just to piggyback off of Eric, is that what was clear at that meeting is that we need to come up with a second list of smaller, ongoing maintenance stuff that we need to talk about making part of our operational budget on an ongoing basis. Because I think the Board of Finance is only interested in the CIP items. They're not
Yeah, those bigger ticket.
the really big tickets.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, but nonetheless, I think we've had some good discussions with them. If you both agree, now you were part of, I think, one of those meetings. So I think that's important as we move forward too. It's only going to help us in, when we present our budgetary items in the very near future. So I'll work, Lynn and I will work on setting up another meeting, and then we can decide whether we want to, it might be good for us to have one first, and then if we want to, when we incorporate Board of Finance members in again, we can do that.
Good. Excellent, excellent.
Okay.
Thanks, Barbara and Eric, for raising your hand. Okay.
Yeah.
Huh?
I was just going to say, I think that this almost, it would be to have one of our retreats at some point, to talk about this kind of stuff, because I think we need to look on a more detailed level of what our needs are.
Yeah.
Because I think
Yeah.
there's a lot that's being
Yeah.
neglected, and it would be good.
Right.
I'd be interested to hear what everyone else's opinion on their vision of where we are and where we should be.
It might be a good idea to maybe, if we have that kind of a retreat and discussion, to have the rest of the board hear that presentation that we had from John Rhodes. Because that's really what we need to be talking about, is how we're going to fiscally maintain our schools on an ongoing basis so that we don't end up in the kinds of situations we've ended up in the past, where we end up having to spend a whole ton of money because we haven't planned for the future in terms of maintaining buildings.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good
Well,
idea.
clearly funds different, or structures their funding differently.
Right,
than
but
some
we
of
have
their
to talk
accounts.
about, I think what this
Which
board
we don't
needs to
do.
talks about is how are we gonna do that?
Yeah, yeah.
Good, okay.
Makes sense.
All right. Okay, move on to the next item, which is the CABE Delegate Assembly. And thanks, Jamie, thank you for bringing this up and having it put on the
problem.
agenda. So each year at the CABE convention that's held, and this time it's November, well, the delegate assembly is on November 16th. There are a series of resolutions that are proposed, and then they're debated at the delegate assembly and then voted on as recommendations that would go forward through CABE to the state legislature, yeah, for their consideration. And each year there are several that come from the committee that's in charge of was it government relations, I think.
Yep.
And then there are ones that are proposed from districts, some districts, because they most likely have had some fun experience that's triggered their wish to make some changes to some things. So, Jamie is going to be our official delegate, but I think Jill and Candace are also going to.
No.
Barbara?
Or was it Barbara's?
It's me.
Candace and
I
you?
think it was
Okay.
all three, it was the
Jill's
three of you.
Oh, and Jill.
And I think Jill also raised her
Four of
hand.
us.
The four, yeah, and you can. And then just one delegate per district can vote, so Jamie is the one that'll be raising her hand, or holding up, you hold up a little
Paddle
sign, a
or
paddle,
something.
yeah. So, anyway, but the point of this one is that I hope you had a chance to kind of peruse through the proposed resolutions, to see if there was anything in here that you felt strongly opposed to or strong for.
Or something that you wanted clarification on.
Yeah, that would lead to a question or something that would happen. Anybody, Eric? Yeah.
On the, I don't know how
If you-
to say 2.5?
Can you just give me the page on
Page,
the left-hand
yep, page
side?
number. Yep,
Page 9,
yep, that's right.
the daily schedule for secondary schools.
Yep.
So the need to move towards a later start time with a uniform start time throughout the state and things like that. So I guess, I mean, I understand the thought process, and I agree with the thought process. I think logistically, it's just impossible to implement. I know some places have implemented it, but I just think of all the after-school activities that high school students have.
Well, I think,
I don't
so,
know.
I know Massachusetts is moving towards this model, and I know there's been a lot of talk and studies about it, and I know
I agree with the studies.
the study,
I'm trying to figure out how you.
right, well, and that's the problem, because one school can't do it alone. You would
Right.
need a
Yeah, you need a
whole,
cluster.
you would need a whole region, a whole district, a whole state to do it in order for everyone to be on the same schedule to make everything else fall
How
in
much
line.
later would it, do you know what Massachusetts is doing?
I don't know, but I know that they're looking to do this.
45 minutes to an hour.
I think 45 minutes is
And
what
this
I've
is
heard.
just a study with a recommendation.
Right.
A lot of surveys are going out now, too.
Right,
I've been
so
to
they're
two
gonna
of
do
them.
this is just to ask the state to form a committee to do a study and make a recommendation. So they're not we don't know that they're even gonna recommend it after
Right.
they do this study. They may not.
We couldn't do the standardized calendar.
So the issues I see.
They couldn't handle that.
That there are kids who work after school.
On a daily
Their
basis.
ability to work. I see that kids are already up late doing schoolwork. So if you're getting out later, it probably means that you're up later as well. So I don't know that it equals more sleep time. It just changes the cycle of when they're asleep. I don't know that it will change much. It might just kind of move the cycle. I know there's studies that kids need more sleep and all that stuff, and I probably agree with it. It seems to, there's evidence. So anyway, I struggle with that one. I'd love that if it would work. I just think implementing in the logistics, I struggle to get. So that was the one and the other one that I questioned, it looked like Thomaston must have a lot of issues.
Yeah, Thomaston looks like a lot of issue.
But the one that I thought was, I know, so that.
But Thomaston also said that a lot of them that CABE was gonna reject.
Well, I know, I saw that, but, so I want to understand, because the one that I thought was interesting, it's the one where you allow non-certified.
Oh, it's
here
the
it is.
teacher prep programs.
K-12 teacher preparation program. So it talks about, so here's just, so I'm just thinking for myself. Let's say I hire tomorrow, and I want to can come and teach business at the high school. And in order for me to do that, I think I then have to go get certified and jump through all these hoops. And I'm not trying to pat my, but the school would be very beneficial to have me or someone like me to come and teach business at the school. So wouldn't we want to have that ability? And I know CABE is saying don't allow, I think Thomaston is saying yes, as I read it.
Thomaston, I think, is saying, yes, they want you to be able to fast track to your certificate.
Right, and the CABE is saying reject it.
Yep.
Right.
So I would want that ability. I don't want to do it a lot.
Right.
But I think, especially in specialized areas, that there might be some opportunity.
I'm 100% on board with that.
Oh, yeah, I am.
And a lot
I put
of the
star next to it
alternative
because I like
route to
it.
certification programs in Connecticut are fantastic. Like the ARC program, Relay, like really phenomenal teacher training programs for folks that didn't find their passion in teaching until a little bit later. Like some of the strongest teachers that I've recruited have come from alternative route programs.
Hired a few as well that have been ARC.
Yeah.
I think that the reason that CABE is saying, because, I think the state as a whole, education law is backing those kind of programs. That's why they have ARC. The problem is that we don't have any, that what they're saying is we can't seek mandates for the colleges and universities because they operate separately from us, right? Like boards of education recommending mandates for colleges and universities, they're saying it's not our job or business to do that, right? That's a long-standing problem, like anybody who's worked for one of the universities as a cooperating teacher or that the state, that those institutions don't sync real well with the teacher, what, the state requires for new teachers. They basically do what they want. We can't tell them what to do. So I think they're saying, well, yeah, this is a good idea, but we don't really have any power to tell them what to do. So, because I think the state pushes this. And I think they have made some changes
Right, I think in that relay
state
program.
statutes about this, where they are requiring less things.
Less hoops.
Yes, less certification hoops. Yeah, so the state does do this. What they're saying is they can't make the universities do it.
Right.
They do their own thing. They don't care what it,
Good.
John?
Good. John? Yeah.
I have two questions. One, this is just from the understanding how the legislative body works in Connecticut. This is way too long in terms of the legislative agenda to vote on and then present to the legislature. Just from a recommendation standpoint, it's not effective at all. Like you come between like 3 or 4 issues and you go, so is that what it does?
Well, what happens, it narrows it down.
To like 3?
They narrow it down based on the board's voting.
Yeah.
What do they see as the most important topics?
Right.
Like how we had that list
Yeah.
for
And then it's presented to
Redistricting.
the
We
education
kind of-
committee, is that what it is?
Yep, and then
Okay.
they present it to the state legislature. They fight
State Board of
for,
Education first.
they fight for what we think is important.
And then they do studies and it sits on the
Yes.
shelf.
Yeah. Yeah.
The one
Well,
thing-
some of these have been up and we've taken them off.
Yeah.
And then they've changed the wording and now they're bringing them back again for
Yeah.
us.
This is a rather thin booklet, too.
This is very thin.
Oh, yeah.
Some years.
Yeah,
it's-
no, I
it's
remember
very-
the first year I was on board, the booklet
Yeah.
was like that,
Yeah.
so. I mean.
Some
hopefully
years
they're
it's been crazy. but-
Changing. The one thing I will say on the Alliance District standpoint, even though that doesn't
Look
affect
at
us
page
at all.
11.
Right, yeah.
Number 11.
11, yeah.
I know Vernon really well. It's my other home,
Mm-hmm.
basically. This is where I grew up. When they identified the 30 underachieving districts and called them the Alliance Districts, home prices dropped like crazy
Yep.
in
Right.
terms of people wanting to move in
Mm-hmm.
and Governor Malloy's idea of doing the Alliance Districts, of trying to prop them up and make them better and spend more money on them, really has failed completely, and that's why these guys are pushing for
Yeah,
it really hard.
I like
So,
this one, but they're rejecting it.
Yeah, yeah. So it's just, it's tough for communities like Vernon, which is like a suburban,
Right.
urban setting kind of thing. And so I think from the East Lyme standpoint, obviously, we're not in that, but should still be able to other districts. So we're trying to do good.
Well, but I also think that their rationale is right, because there are always going to be 30 low-performing districts.
Yeah.
There always, it may
Right.
not always be the same 30, but no matter what, there are always going to be 30 low-performing
Low-performing,
districts.
right.
It's,
Yeah, it kills morale too amongst like the staff and.
It does, yeah.
The teachers when you're in the Alliance districts, you know, so.
Is that on November 8th, Wednesday?
Yeah.
Just that informational webinar, if anybody's interested to, it was on page 3 there, at the very top. Assembly roles and responsibilities, if anybody's interested. Eric, if you need like help writing your resignation letter, or your retirement letter for Pfizer, ARC, an interest letter, just let us know.
Yeah.
We can help you with that. Happy to.
So, can I get one more question?
Yeah.
It's broad. We don't have anyone, like, on this back page, is it bad that East Lyme?
no,
is-
our rep is Salem, I think, or Montville. Because
Oh,
it's like, it goes by, I think we're area 9,
Yeah, we're 9,
okay.
yeah.
or 9,
Oh,
and so.
that-
Sean Nugent. Yeah.
Is he the former?
Yeah, Sean.
That's Sean?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's Sean, our Sean, yeah.
Okay.
Who actually was he also spearheaded the sale of the part of the old hospital in Norwich, or wherever that was, right on the river. Oh, I can't remember, I'm blanking on the name of it, but,
So, but Eric,
Anyway.
if you would like
Yeah.
to, they do elections
yep.
Oh, I don't think I want to go on.
for
this,
area
but,
directors, if you have time and you'd like to be our area director.
I was looking at
Yeah.
other people.
No,
They're
they will,
always looking
they are,
for
it's like,
directors.
it's, yeah,
I'd like to
yes.
step up.
Yeah, you raise your hand and you'll get drawn in, and then 20 years will pass, and then all of a sudden, you'll,
I think Melissa Ford was ours for a while.
or, yeah, Melissa was the last
And
one.
Mary was ours for a while.
Yep.
Okay.
So,
Okay, thank
that's
you.
good. I was just curious, on page number 9, the burden of proof.
I like that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's been around
Would
for
that be ever,
years.
would that ever get changed?
I don't know, you know, it's come up, oh gosh, I don't know how many years now, you know, there's a legislative change and recommendation. I don't think there's enough,
Yeah.
you know, how to push it. I think, you know, we're one of a handful of states that the burden of proof is still on, you know, us as the
Yeah,
district.
yeah,
So,
so I would vote.
I like that one.
Yay on that one, if you,
yeah.
so, good. Any other comments on it? So,
I mean, I have a good idea of how we feel as a board,
Oh,
but it's
sure.
always nice to get everyone's
Yep.
feedback.
no, it was really good, Jamie.
Because last year, I kind of was like, I kind of know how we feel as a board, but it would have been nice if we
we
had
didn't do
talked
this
about
last
this
year.
beforehand. We've never done this.
Never.
And I've always wondered why, but
Well, I mean, if we want to get the high achieving award as a high performing board, if we were to write one of these, that would check one of the boxes that we don't ever get a check on, so.
Whether it's accepted or rejected, just.
yeah, you have
can
to.
write one up, yeah.
I mean,
If there's something that
if
we
you
felt
guys want to
strongly
come
about.
up with one real quick, they let you write one right then. So if one of you wants me to write one right then, I will, but you got to give me a clue of what you want me to write.
So, Anyway, good, and we'll carry it, make sure that we'll hear feedback
Right.
at the next meeting, so.
Plus, at the next meeting, I think we'll have all gone to CAVE.
That's right, we'll all, yeah.
No, we go, to the next meeting is the 13th.
Is it 13th?
And
or
CAVE is
something?
that weekend,
Yeah,
so-
that's right.
17.
So, okay,
I think. I don't know. I've
yeah,
got
because
my
Yeah,
of, because
I
of
think I've got
the
my
holiday.
meetings crossed.
Okay, shall we move on?
Yep.
So, elementary school alterations project update, anything, Jeff, you want to?
Yeah, we just, not much, but wanted to make mention, we were kind of, well, I personally was going a little increasingly concerned with, we haven't had any conversations yet about the phasing component
Right.
of, for
Construction
how that's
phasing?
all going. That's a huge,
It's huge.
undertaking. So, a couple phone calls, and long story short, we've got a meeting set up for this Thursday morning with the principals and one of the representatives from ONG, two of the representatives from ONG. So we're going to start that initial discussion as a group, and then they're going to start meeting with the principals individually for further work and further discussion. Because really, we got to get that rolling. So there could be some budgetary implications. You never know. So we want to have that underway.
Well, that's why I thought we should have held it off on the calendar until we talked about the.
Yeah, it's another reason, exactly. So, so that's probably the biggest component. Our next town building committee meeting is the 16th. So that's forthcoming, but that's it for now. I think, probably after that meeting, we really should be considering, maybe Alan and OEG coming back to the full board and having some discussions. And sort of- Yeah, this summer.
Yeah, this summer.
This summer.
Budget, I'm
Yeah.
not going.
Yeah, right when school gets out. So, I mean, it's November and
Yeah.
things are moving, so we got to get that phasing component worked out so we can start making sure that's aligned.
Okay.
So that's, I don't know, that's about it.
Any
for-
other questions, any comments? No? Okay, yep. Okay, good. Okay, policy. We've got a whole bunch of second readings. Jamie, you want to?
I'm ready.
You want to lead us through it?
All right. Second reading, I'd like to recommend the adoption of policy 1313, community relations, give gifts to school personnel.
I thought we were going to increase that amount. We kept it at 25.
I think there was some.
There was discussion,
There
but
was
I
a lot
don't
of
think there was,
Consensus.
thank you,
Yes,
consensus.
That was the word.
There was discussion, but there was no
Because that's-
consensus.
City does.
That's what the city
No.
has.
This is the city
Oh, our.
employee policy,
Yeah,
Yeah.
town.
whatever, town. This is the town. This is the town's number on their employee policy.
Right.
Okay,
So that's why that is there.
wait a second.
I think
So,
we talked
Jamie,
about-
did you move?
Yes,
You
I did
moved it?
move.
Okay, is there a second?
I second.
Barbara seconds it. Are we clear on the? Yeah, I don't, yeah, we weren't overly excited about this one. So, but, it's okay. Okay, everybody else out on this one?
Yeah.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? One opposed, abstain, and one abstain.
No, I was.
Whoop, what, did you abstain too?
0 abstentions.
2 abstentions, so it passes.
This isn't here.
Yeah, but it still passes.
It
Jill's not
passes.
here
We
either.
have enough votes.
Yeah, we're here, Yeah. Okay, moving on to the next one, 4118.11.
So I'd like it to make a motion to approve the recommended revisions to Board of Ed Policy 411811, Personnel Certified, Non-Certified, Non-Discrimination Policy.
Is there a second?
Second.
Barbara seconds it. Discussion on this one, any comments? No? Everybody all set? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Passes unanimously. The next one,
All right, I'd like to make a motion to delete Board of Ed Policy 5131, student bus conduct.
it's just a deletion of
It's a
it.
deletion.
Can you remind me what the rationale was?
We are deleting this because it is in the student discipline
Yeah, we
policy.
redid the discipline policy, the next
We are
couple
deleting a
of the
whole
same.
bunch of them because they're in
They
the
live
student.
somewhere else.
They live somewhere else.
That's it?
Yep. Okay.
Okay,
Instead of
was that a
having-
second? Was that a second then?
Yes, it's a second.
Lee
Instead of
seconds it.
having 15 of the same thing, it's,
Okay, any more discussion on this one?
because we don't think the bus behavior is important.
Okay, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, passes unanimously.
Bus behavior is not important.
Okay, next one, another deletion.
Same thing.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to delete Board of Ed Policy 51317, students, weapons, and dangerous instruments, because it's in the student discipline policy, not because we don't care about weapons.
Second.
Okay, Lee seconds it. Any other discussion on this one? Nope. Okay, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained, passes unanimously. And
I'd like to make a motion to recommend the deletion of Board of Ed Policy 51318, students out of school misconduct, because it is in the discipline policy, not because it's not important.
Second.
Lee seconds. Comment, discussion?
Should probably clarify why.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained, passes unanimously. Okay, the next one,
The next one is,
favorite one.
I'd like to recommend the revision of Board of Ed Policy 51319, students bullying because the state of Connecticut cannot make up their mind.
Okay. Is there a second on that one? Barbara seconds it. Comments, discussion? All set? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Passes unanimously. And the next one?
I'd like to recommend the deletion of Policy 5131913, students cyberbullying, because it's in the bullying policy.
Second.
Lee seconds it. Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Passes unanimously. And the last one?
I'd like to make a recommendation to revise Board of Ed Policy 51441, student seclusion and restraint, and because State Board of Ed changed some wording in there for us.
Yep.
Again, they can't make up their minds.
Second? Barbara seconds it.
I'm just going to be very blunt.
More discussion? Nope, everybody all set? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Passes unanimously. Jamie, thank you very much.
No problems.
Yeah.
We're getting there.
That concludes the discussion action items for the evening. Administration reports?
Just
Mr.
two,
Newton.
yeah, just two quick items. We've got Mr. Susi and a
Yeah.
representative that are down in Washington today and tomorrow for the Blue Ribbon component. So we'll be bringing back that award. We're working on just a small celebration at some point here at the high school, open up the community. So you'll get more information on that. So exciting. I think they're excited to be down there. And then you did receive a copy of the Veterans Day activities for this coming Friday. Please let us know if you're interested in attending any of these. We've got some great activities that go on across the district every year. Really, the schools do a fantastic job. So I encourage you, if you'd like to partake, please let us know. We'll make sure to get you on the list.
Every year.
That's it.
Good. Okay. Any questions for Jeff? Amy? Anything to?
Budget, working on budget, renegotiating. So I'm at the negotiating table with a bunch of different programs that we currently, even though we have a multi-year, still if we can renegotiate. I'm putting calls into everybody right now, so I'm doing a lot of WebExes and renegotiated meetings, and also trying to see what we can centralize and bring it to the district level and continue to talk about, so.
Great. Excellent.
Yeah.
Very good. Mary Ann, anything?
Budget.
Yeah, budget, yeah.
Yeah,
Good.
we're in it.
We're in it.
Yeah, we're in, yeah, I can, man, yeah.
That's it.
Good things to come, so. Okay, that concludes the administrative reports. Committee reports, we had a AAA committee meeting at 6 o'clock this evening. Candace chaired it and did a great job. I can just say a few words about it, Bill, or if you want to, or did you want to say something? Or
That's fine.
do
You
it.
can go ahead.
We had our socks knocked off by Amy, who walked us through all of the things that have been happening on the front, on the curriculum front across the district. It was awesome. Candace is putting together the minutes, and she's going to include all the handouts in it. It's a lot of information. Take a look at it. It is really very impressive. What has been accomplished in, I would say, a relatively very short period of time. I think that most likely in the coming early part of next year, we're going to be bringing this to the board in some sort of form. That has to be figured out, how best to do that. Very impressive in terms of the overall flow of events and the scheduling and so forth, and it was good. So I'll let that stay at that, and anybody questions or wants more detail, Amy certainly would be, I'm sure, would be more than glad to answer any questions. So.
Yeah.
Barbara?
I just want to make a comment. I was fortunate enough to attend the workshop that Amy did for staff because I was there as a staff member, because world language is one of the areas that's up for revision.
Right.
And once again, I was so incredibly impressed with Amy's ability to really make the staff feel that she is there, that she understands the change is difficult, that she understands they are overwhelmed by something that's new, but that her major role is there to help them. And like all of the workshops we've seen Amy run, it was superb. And I just can't say enough for, how, change is difficult, especially if you don't have an administrator who really knows how to relate to staff and understands what they're going through, and Amy is the master, so.
Thank you.
I just want to share that.
Good.
Very nice of you.
Very good.
Thank you.
Excellent. Okay. That brings us to board comments and future agenda topics. Anybody have a comment?
I have a couple, but I have a question. Melissa, where is your walkathon going to and from if we want to come and watch? Because the flyer doesn't say where, so.
That was today.
Oh.
Oh.
Well, then. I guess I'm not going.
The walkathon was today, and our assembly is 2 o'clock on Friday afternoon. We just walked around the field. They made laps around the field between the middle school and Lily Bay.
Okay. I was gonna come and watch, but.
Sorry.
Never mind. And then, Mr. Bitgood, Deb Kelly, and myself, prior to the meeting, we attended a informational session on the Miracle League fields.
Yep.
That Jason, Deb Kelly, and myself, we attended before the meeting.
Great.
We cut it short to get back here for 7, but there was a lot of interest. It was a half-packed fish market
Good.
dining room.
Excellent. Yeah.
Of interested people willing to help out, get their feet in there. Well, that dining room was huge.
Yeah.
So it was about half full. Well, a little bit more than half. There was a lot of people there
For the
looking
kickoff, yeah, the
to
first one.
get more information, learn how to raise money, learn what it is about. So they are going full speed ahead, and they're looking to hopefully have enough money within the next 2 to 3 years to get it going.
Yeah.
So
Great.
it was really cool to see all the people there that are interested in helping get it going.
Excellent.
It was
That's
nice.
wonderful.
Thanks for going to that.
Yes, thanks for
Yeah,
was
I appreciate that.
Wanted to have somebody there that worked out.
Yeah, it was
That's
Jason,
really good.
Deb Kelly, and myself. We all three of
Good,
it.
thank you. Okay, good.
Nope.
That it? Anything else? Anybody else? No? Okay. Public comment? Nope. And we do have a need for a brief executive session, so we'll take a brief recess and then come back to go into executive session.